Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining the ParentCamp Podcast. We are so excited that you have found us yet again. On this episode, we are talking about meeting universal human needs. Do you know what that is? Have you even heard of that phrase? Don't worry. We're going to make sure that you have a number of tools and nuggets to be able to take away from today's conversation, even things that you might not have thought about when it comes to building villages and having connectivity, not just for our children, not just for adults, but for all of us from both sides of the table. So join us in this conversation. Grab your pen, grab your paper, grab your closest device, whatever you need to take notes in. You're going to leave with some great takeaways from today. We dare not hold up this conversation. You ready? We're ready. Let's go. Hello, hello, hello. You are tuning into the Parent Camp Podcast. Welcome back. Today I am joined again with Miss Julie Powell and Miss Laura Gilchrist. We have such a great conversation in store for you guys today. We are talking about meeting universal human needs. And we will not prolong the time. Ladies, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome today, April. How are you?
I am great. So glad to be here with you guys. Laura, how are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Our first hummingbird arrived.
Oh,
Just came to the
cool.
feeder. So something.
Come on. I love it. I love it. Welcome, spring. Today we were mentioning meeting universal human needs. So I just want to jump straight in. Help us understand what are universal human needs. I mean, are we talking like just safety and food and shelter, or are we talking about something more? Let's just start there.
Well, when we ask people, what are our universal human needs? When we ask them to list them, what comes up, April, is exactly what you just said. It's food and water and shelter and all those really important basic needs. But there are many more universal human needs. They're really important. And I'll tell you how this came about. So Dr. Emily Howell, she's a parent camp coach. She introduced it to me and I looked it up and it kind of changed my life. I'm kidding not. Like, it really has helped me in my growth journey, identifying my own needs and, meeting my own needs, overcoming my trauma from growing up. But what I want to share is that this came from the Center for Nonviolent Communication. That's a mouthful. So for short, it's cnvc.org. And Marshall Rosenberg, he was the founder, and he had these lists of universal human needs. And so when you look at it, we have a link in the below or above, wherever it might be, of the universal human needs list from CNVC. So I encourage you to pull that up while we're talking about it. So I'm looking at the list right now. Well, I want to ask Julie. Julie, what surprised you the first time you saw the needs list?
I think it was just the vast variety of needs and feelings of things being out there. And I guess I didn't think about certain things. So and I knew this deeply. So one of the needs that is huge for me is beauty, and that's beauty in nature. So when Laura mentioned the kickoff of the hummingbirds, this feeling immediately came over me. Like, I love hummingbirds. They're like beautiful creatures of nature. And I love to go walking outside in nature because it's just very calming to me. Well, that's a need. Beauty of nature and being out there is a need. And I guess I didn't realize until working with Laura and Emily bringing this to us was when you look at things that meet your needs and you are purposeful about being in environments that create filling those needs for you, it really changes your life because then you're more purposeful about what environment you put yourself in.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Keep going. Keep going. My brain's shooting off, but I love it. The things that meet your needs, especially the environments that you allow yourself to be placed in. I like that. Okay, continue.
So Julie spoke about beauty, and I'm going to name the two biggest categories of universal human needs are connection. That's the first one. And there are probably 20 plus needs that fall under the category of connection. And when I say need, I mean it's just like water. I'll give you some examples. Acceptance, compassion, love, respect and self-respect, safety, to see and be seen, to know and be known, to understand and be understood. And a big one is trust. That's not even close to all of the needs that are classed as connection. So those are like water. Like we need them. And like Julie said, beauty, it's not just a fluffy thing. Oh, I saw some beautiful art or a beautiful bird. It's meeting a need. And in a little bit, we'll talk about what happens when a lot of your needs are met or not met. So connection is the big category. And the other big category is meaning. And some of the needs under that category are awareness, growth, learning, participation, to matter, creativity, contribution, consciousness. So meaning, being a part of something and creating meaning for yourself that you can reflect on, that's a huge category. So that's something we can tap into.
Okay.
And then would you like me to name any of the other categories off, or do you want to talk about
goodness.
meaning?
Okay. It's just my brain is just loving this. I've been a connector person for the longest. I used to say that for years and years, and people are like, I don't know what that means. What do you mean? We're not connected. And so connection and connecting, the word connect for all the words that deal with connect. I love it. So when you're reading off all of the subcategories under connections, I'm literally writing them down and I'm just circling like, yep. That's me. So I'm just so excited just for myself, and I'm sure for our listeners, and I hope that you guys are able to find that link. Can you give it to us again, Laura? We're going to make sure we have it in the show notes. But what was that website one more time, Laura or Julie, for them to be able to pull up that list?
Sure. It's www.cnvc.org.
Awesome. Okay. So yes, we can mention a few of the other categories, but hopefully you all as the listeners are able, as Laura and Julie continue this conversation, you're able to pull up that list and just circle some of those basic, we're talking not just basic human needs, but universal human needs. And so I'm just thrilled. Keep going, Laura.
Yeah, a couple more are play, joy, and humor. And a big one is autonomy, like choice and freedom and space and spontaneity. And one thing that comes up pretty frequently as one of the needs met at ParentCamp is humor. Like that's a need. It's not just, I've had a long week and so I need to watch something funny. Like we long for humor. And I like to say when we talk about needs, it's what we long for.
I like that.
And I would say one of Julie's her need is beauty. Mine is harmony. And those are both in the peace category of human needs.
Wow. I love this. Julie, did you want to add anything to that? Because I have another question, but I definitely want to make sure that I'm hearing your side as well.
Yeah, I would say once I learned about these universal human needs, and Laura will kind of talk a little bit about from her teacher's perspective of what we can do in the schools. But when we start designing not only events, but opportunities for people to get together, if you keep these in mind, it changes the dynamics of whatever you're doing. So like if you've designed an event around family engagement that meets needs of autonomy and freedom and space, it completely changed the dynamics and outcomes of the events.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good segue. I mean, you're speaking about the planning of events and parent camp, of course. We know we're talking about that, but I want to ask this question. We're talking about feelings. We're talking about the universal human needs. Where do feelings come into play as you're planning these events, these parent camp opportunities? Do feelings like matter in the family, school, community engagement space?
Well, speaking of feelings, feelings and emotions are a little bit different, but we're going to talk about them interchangeably.
Okay.
So for me and for a lot of people that have experienced trauma, we have a whole range of feelings, and many people tend to group them as good and bad. But what the Center for Nonviolent Communication does is they have a list of feelings. So when your needs are met, when a lot of your needs are met, they have a list of feelings when your needs are met. And there are things like affectionate, engaged, grateful, inspired, relaxed, enlivened, blissful, glad, astonished, those kind of things. Those are feelings when your needs are met. So if you design to meet a lot of needs, you're going to create a set of these feelings that I like to call, and I'm working on myself to change from good and bad feelings, labeling them that way, to open feelings.
Say more.
Yeah. So you meet people's needs, and then they have this whole range of open feelings. What I used to call good feelings that I wanted. And then there was the bad feelings, which I didn't want to even think about and I didn't want to feel. But if on the flip side, if you set things up, like let's say you're in rows and everybody looks at the back of each other's heads and the only person that sees you is the person at the front of the room, that's traditional education. That's traditional family, school, community engagement. And people aren't seen. They don't get to speak till the end. And when a lot of needs are not met, there's a list from the CNBC, the list of feelings when needs are not met. And I'll just say just a few of these. Disconnected, annoyed, yearning, sad, aversion, afraid. And I instead of calling those bad, I am reprogramming my code to say these are closed feelings. And, think about yourself out there, some place that you've gone in your life where you've had your needs were met and you had open feelings. And think of somewhere you went where your needs were not met and the type of feelings that you had there. If you have closed feelings, Julie, is it easy for you to just open up and have open feelings?
No, it's not. Basically, when you have those closed feelings, you're disconnected. You don't want to be there. You want to leave.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I want to be in this environment where I don't feel welcome? And so that's why it's important to engineer what we're doing to create those positive feelings for people, because then when you have the positive feelings, then it's like, yes, we can do this. We're connected.
Yeah.
We can accomplish anything together.
Yeah. And Julie, that makes me think of kids copy. They're sponges for the feelings and the feeling tone and the words of their parents. And if they see parents coming home from an event at school and the parents are happy and they're like, oh, I met somebody. Oh, and there's somebody right around the corner didn't even know we lived around the corner. And the parents are happy and they're open feelings. The kids they're going to copy that. And they're going to adopt that same feeling towards school. There's going to be a shift in the home just from the shift in the feelings, which, we don't explore very often. We know feelings are important, but if you want to engage people and want them to feel like they can contribute, we have to meet their needs so that we can get them into open feelings. And if we fail in that from schools, then we failed the kids.
It's funny you mentioned how kids are sponges, or even they reflect, or yeah, I guess I'll just say reflect what the parents see. It's when my kids, my family, my husband, my kids, and I moved to Kentucky just a few years ago. The kids were nervous about getting involved because this is our second move. I was as well. But I said, if they're just as nervous, let me at least jump in and try to get involved with some of the things with the school. So I got involved. And as I became more aware and started to gain just a few connections, the kids and I had that as our time in the evenings when they got home. Hey, who did you meet today? Okay, guess who I met? I met this teacher. Oh, well, mom, she's my teacher. Oh, really?
Mhm.
And it just the fact that you mentioned that, that parent involvement and parent engagement, and the kids seeing if the parents are excited, or the schools have something that allows parents to feel involved, and then the parents come home and talk about it, then the kids, so my son and my daughter both started, well, mama, since you met someone, let me see if I can meet someone. So it became kind of a thing, a small thing for us, where we know we're in a new space, but we're going to make the most of it. So who did you meet, or what meeting did you go to? So it's interesting that you brought that up, because that really resonated. Again, going into the community, parent, school engagement and excitement, and feeling seen, feeling heard. So yeah, I mean, so being a part of my kids' schools and them being seen and feeling heard, it really is going back to all the things that you both are mentioning. It was meeting a universal human need. And I'm sure you all have so many stories, and that's going to be probably within each episode, you're going to hear stories. But is there a story that you all can probably mention, where maybe a parent and a school or a community event that you all hosted, where you personally witnessed or heard a parent say they felt their universal human need being met by being involved in some kind of way with their child's school?
I've got pulling up. I've got a lot of these memories, a lot of
I'm
these
sure.
stories. One comes to mind. There was a parent at a school, and she came to all the parent camps. And there, that school, I think it had six. And so she said that her child um, with special needs and struggling and wasn't happy in previous school. And so they started at this school, and she started coming to the parent camps, got to know the principal, got to know the teachers, and had a connection with them. And then when I talked to her the next time, she said, things have just taken off. My child is happy. Is excelling. He loves coming to school. And she continued coming to the parent camps and is just thriving, happy, radiant. So many of her needs are met. And because she came to the parent camp, her child was impacted because of the relationships between her and the school staff and the other families. And that impacted the child. And that's the thing we want to look at more carefully, is the relationships impact our children. We can't see it directly, and that's why we don't look for it. But when you start looking for it, like, it's a big deal. Julie, what is it you always talk about? I love.
So when my son was in elementary school, he was pretty shy and quiet. And I had built a relationship with one of the teachers there. He was the drama teacher. He's very outgoing, energetic. Imagine teaching drama. They, they're one of the energy people in the building. And he knew my son was kind of quiet. And so my son had energy. He was in his drama class. And he left me a message one day. He's like, I have to tell you, your son just cracked me up today. He goes, he told this joke and did this and did that, and just was so out of character for him. So he had left me a message on Voxer, which is a tool that I use. And when I played that for my son that night, he just grinned from ear to ear. But if I wouldn't have had that relationship with that teacher, and he knew my son, I don't know if he would have reached out to share that story. Well, that really ended up impacting me, and it impacted my son. And it just, creates that bond with the school.
Right.
That village,
Yeah.
his village felt bigger, And that's a lot of, like, when you talk about your kids and you getting involved when you had moved, you're building that village, and the kids feel it when they have that supporting village around them.
You know, I have another story that's a little bit different from the previous two. A parent came to a parent camp, and there was a session on becoming the greatest version of yourself. And she went to it and shared in there with everybody in the circle about how she didn't like the job she was in. She just didn't feel like she was contributing and just didn't know what to do. And the people in that circle, as well as the facilitator, they encouraged her to, speak out. What do you really want to do? And she said, well, I'd like to work with kids. So anyway, the next parent camp, she had a job at the school. She had a job at the school. And, this brings me to one big point. In terms of meeting needs, it's not about the person at the front of the room meeting needs. At parent camp, we're in circles. You're meeting the needs of each other. Everybody is. You're connecting with each other, but you're meeting each other's needs. It's not just one person. No one person could meet everybody's needs. But with the village, meeting each other's needs, we can. And that's just those are three different stories, three tiny slices of impact. Imagine if you followed those people and those stories to where it went to. Like, that's something we're looking into doing, and can't wait to see where that.
Okay, so I have to jump in with one story because this is one of my favorite stories. So
come on, story time.
So not only do we do parent camps, we also do grandparent camps because there are so many grandparents raising their grandchildren. And they have a completely different set of needs. They were raised in a different time. Parenting is different. So we did a grandparent camp. And what surprised me the most was half of the people who came, their grandchildren, they had already raised and moved on. They were adults. The reason they came was they wanted to share the experiences and knowledge and the tidbits that they had gained over raising their grandchildren and the systems that are in place and how to navigate them, wanted to share that with the new grandparents who were just getting started because they didn't want them to face the same frustrations that they did. And that goes back, and they didn't even realize that, but that goes back to those universal human needs, and one of the biggest being contribution. They were contributing to other people's lives.
That part, once I've raised mine, I'm done. But the fact that the grandparents wanted to make sure they passed on their wealth of knowledge and their experiences for those coming behind them. And what was the universal human need? Contribution. Is that what you mentioned? Contribution. I love it.
Marshall Rosenberg, I heard this in an CNBC training that I did a couple years ago. They asked, what did Marshall say was the biggest universal human need beyond food and water? And I asked that, and people typically say, oh, love. And that was what I first came up with. But he said, per the trainers I had, that it was contribution. And we see that in parent camp. People want to help each other. They want to contribute to the well-being of the village. They want to, but there are not very many opportunities to contribute. And I've noticed something in myself. When I can't contribute, and I want to, but there's no way for me, I feel stifled. At one parent camp we were at, we asked everybody at the end, would you like to contribute more to your school? And almost every hand went up. But the ways that are available to contribute are very few. So that's something you can do at parent camp, is ask, what would you like to do? Start dreaming a little bit, and then just start implementing things and giving families more opportunities, different opportunities to contribute their gifts and their talents.
It sounds so simple and kind of like, well, duh, who doesn't know that? But hearing you say it, we ask, who in the room would like to contribute? And parents actually say, I want to contribute. And is that something that you all saw from the school side, Laura? Or was this before parent camp? Were you already seeing that on the school side as a teacher, there aren't many spaces for parents to be involved? Or was it as you and Julie were working on Parent Camp that you started to see there should be an opportunity or spaces for parents to contribute, to feel a part? At what point did you see contribution being like a game changer? Because in my mind, it makes so much sense for people to have the opportunity to dream, but contribution being such a big one. And who was it again? The quoter,
Marshall Rosenberg. Yeah. I'll speak from the teacher perspective, and then Julie can speak from the parent perspective. So I would say, as a teacher, we don't meet with parents. We only meet during conferences. We don't really talk to each other. So you had a vague feeling that they wanted to contribute, but it's not a topic that ever came up.
Yeah.
You talk about grades. You don't talk about, like, let's reflect. What would you like to do? So there's really no talk of that in my experience as a teacher and a coach. Like we're just talking about what are we going to do in the next event?
So my perspective as a parent and a community member is that I've always held the viewpoint of every single person has something to contribute. They have some skills, some talent that can be used, that can be of benefit to the school and to the kids. We just have to figure out and tap into it. I think that's part of the thing that's really valuable at parent camps is that the educators and the parents start getting to know each other, and they're like, oh, I didn't know, like Laura, she's a birder. Like, maybe starting a birding club. I'm a swimmer and a walker, maybe doing a walking club, or, there's so many assets and resources in the community that could just create these vibrant experiences for our kids. But we just need to ask. A lot of times you just have to ask, and people will step up and help.
Intentionality and just simply asking. Again, these things sound so simple, but the fact that you all have found these small tools that make such great impact, and even from like the community engagement, I started to ask it earlier, but I'm glad we took time to delve more into this particular lane. So from the feelings mattering with the family and school and community engagement, how do you all continue to make sure that these universal human needs are being met? Laura, you started to mention sitting in the group circles rather than having parents come sitting in rows where they're looking at the back of each other's heads. I know that was something that you started to mention, but how do you all make sure that the feelings and the universal human needs of the parents and those who are attending, how is that playing out, and how do they matter during Parent Camp?
From if you look at traditional design in education, in the business world, in family, school, community engagement, a lot of it is in rows, and a few people have the power. And that's not by choice. They didn't say, give me the power, I'm going to do it. It's just been that way over, since the 1800s, it's been that way. And if you set it up and you're sitting in rows, I look at the back of somebody's head. I don't get to talk till the end. I have no choice. I have all these things I want to somehow express and be heard, but I can't be, so I'm feeling angry. You can never, ever get positive feelings and engagement out of that, because when you don't meet a lot of human needs, then you have closed feelings. And once they're closed in the whole room, you're not, it's hard to get back. You could try the next time and change the conditions, but you can change the conditions. And so one thing that we do in Parent Camp, I would recommend to anybody, is to change from rows to circles. You can do multiple circles. You can start in rows and go to circles, but that geometry really matters, because when you sit in a circle, every single pair of eyes in that circle, and you need to make sure that circle is a perfect circle, as close to perfect as possible, not an oval, because you're not equidistant from the center. But every single pair of eyes, you're seen. You're seen the entire time that you're in that circle. If you're in rows, you're only seen. That's a human need. You're only seen by the person at the front. And there's just something beautiful that happens there. So the design of Parent Camp is designed to meet as many human needs as possible. And when people walk out, Julie, you want to speak to the
Yeah,
numbers?
so we asked the question at every single parent camp, both in person and virtual. And so I know we're up over like 3,000 responses. We asked the question, did you feel seen, heard, and valued at parent camp? And it's a scale of strongly disagree, disagree, agree, and strongly agree. We have 99.8% respond, and they can't see each other responding, that they either agree or strongly agree, and mostly it is strongly agree. And you don't get that from traditional family engagement events at all. You don't see those kind of numbers. People don't feel connected. They don't feel that they've been seen and heard and valued. It was kind of funny. One time we did training, and we had the training set up and the chairs in a circle when they came in. And then when we had lunch break and they came back from lunch break and the chairs were in rows, and they walked in and they said, what's this? And sat in rows for a little bit. And then we went back to circles and we're like, how did that feel? And they're like, yeah, we get it now. Like, just
it was intentional that you all moved?
It was
Gotcha.
Just that simple, setup of a room, what that does to the environment.
I'm sorry. I'm listening, and then I'm just visualizing it. And of course, I've attended several of the in-person parent camp sessions, and I've actually seen a few other organizations do this as far as the circle. And I see some people, they start off initially like, wait, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we looking at each other? But even in some of the other spaces, not a lot, but a few of the other spaces that I've been in where everyone was engaged, it was in the circle. And it's just amazing, just that one switch of you going from a circle to rows. People were like, wait, what happened? Mm-hmm. We want to go back to the circle. Yeah. So, and 99.1%, you mentioned?
99.8%.
Oh, 0.8. Yeah. Listen, every point matters. Yeah. So how exactly, real quick, how exactly are you tracking that? I mean, is this like a technical something that you're using, or is this like pen and paper? How exactly are you all tracking those responses?
So we currently we use a tool called Mentimeter for an electronic tracking of it. And then if people can't use that tool, like just technology wise, then we have paper copies. But that's part of the wrap up before we finish a night at a parent camp or the end of the parent camp event. Is that question is asked at every single parent camp.
I love it. Okay, so I do need to ask this. We're talking about big groups of parents, like whether it's big or small, and we've already been talking about so many universal needs that can be met in these type of environments, from being seen to being creative, even down to beauty. How do you design engagement? And I don't want to just say for parent camp, because really we're talking about something that can help drive any engagement program, right? Yes. So in this instance, though, with parent camp, how do you all design engagement so that it meets so many needs of people at the same time?
Well, we've been working on this for years, and overall, it's really, we design it for the needs. And I think in another, maybe one of our upcoming podcasts, we can delve into it. It really comes down to power. That's a key concept. So, but it all goes back to meeting the needs and working together.
Ladies, there's still so much more to talk about, and we can't fit it all into one episode, but I think we need to also add on to that this is meeting universal human needs that drives any engagement opportunity, from parent and school or community and parent. It's so many different ways that just being aware of the universal human needs. And again, to our listeners, we hope that you do check out the link that Laura and Julie mentioned. And we're going to try to make sure we include it in today's show notes. And we hope that you're hearing something that resonates with you as far as being seen, being heard, being able to contribute, with contribution being such a big universal human need. Ladies, I still want to continue the conversation, but any wrap-ups that you have before we sign off for today?
All right, let's bring it back to kids. So if we design to meet as many universal human needs as possible, we will engineer open feelings between everyone. And then the kids sense that, they feel it, they feel that love, and it transfers into them blooming, and it impacts the classroom, it impacts the home. We can't see it directly, but there are impacts. Yeah. So focus on, get that needs sheet out, look at that, and design for it. And a side note, when you, as you're growing yourself and internally, look at what's important to you. What are the needs that you're most longing for? Apply it to yourself as well.
Say that statement again. I was starting to write it, but engineering open feelings so that kids can feel the positive impacts. I was trying to make sure I didn't paraphrase that too much, but can you say that one more time?
Yeah. We want to engineer open feelings in the adults, and then the kids will sponge off the parents. And once the parents are connected, all sorts of opportunities. Oh, I know you. We'll get together with the kids. Oh, you know how to do this. We'll come with you. It just opens multiple doors that weren't even there. And who knows where those doors lead to.
I love it. Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. I wrote that down correctly this time. Good deal. Well, Laura, I really appreciate that wrap up. And I think, Julie, are we both in agreement that's a great way to end today's episode?
Laura just nailed it. It's just engineering the design for those open feelings, not only in parent engagement, but in the classrooms too. I mean, it's amazing what ends up happening.
Awesome. Oh, okay. Listeners, we hope that you have gotten some great tidbits from today's episode. Again, check out those universal human needs sheet that we will have included in today's show notes. And again, know that you are seen, you are heard, you are valued, and your voice matters. Today's episode has been brought to you by Ms. Julie Powell and Laura Gilchrist, and I am April Draine. Again, we thank you so much for your time. And until next time, we appreciate you for tuning into the ParentCamp Podcast.
Thanks, April.
Bye-bye.